Welcome to Business Innovators Radio, featuring industry influencers and trendsetters sharing proven strategies to help you build a better life right now.
This is Tammy Patzer, and I'm really excited to introduce you to our guest today, Amber Robbins, MD. Dr. Robbins is a family medicine resident physician and graduate of the University of Rochester School of Medicine and Dentistry. Throughout her journey, Dr. Robbins' goal has been to continue motivating others to achieve their own personal successes. She is constantly reminded that dreams do come true with faith in God and hard work. Dr. Robbins has worked for ABC News Medical Unit and wrote several articles, one of which was a featured article called Doctors Take Being a Minority in Medicine. She has also written for various magazines like 40s Rock Magazine and the Journal for Minority Medical Students in her own column entitled Diary of a Medical Student. You can find her blog and video posts on www.dramberrobbins.com. Dr. Robbins attended Xavier University of Louisiana and graduated Magna Cum Laude as a biology major and chemistry minor. During her senior year of undergrad, she was elected Miss Xavier University of Louisiana 2009-2010. Dr. Robbins desires to touch the world through her experiences and stories of life as a doctor and advocate for mankind. Welcome, Dr. Robbins.
Hi, Tammy. It's so great to be with you today.
Well, I'm really happy that you're here. Now, just to let our listeners know, Dr. Amber Robbins, MD, medical doctor, she is a medical resident currently, and she just published and wrote a book, and it's currently a top new release on Amazon. So I really want to congratulate you on that.
Thank you so much. I'm excited about it. It's a weird feeling of accomplishment, and I'm just happy that I was able to get it all done and that it's out in the public and people can see it now.
Well, your book is really unique, and before we get into that, because we're going to spend quite a bit of time talking about your book, give me a little bit of background about where you live and mainly why do you write?
Right. So right now I live in upstate New York. I'm originally from Louisiana, so moving from Louisiana to upstate New York was definitely an adjustment, but it's been great up here. Everyone has been really nice. Currently, I'm in my last year of residency for family medicine, and after that, we'll see what happens. And just in general, writing the book. So I actually started writing this book while I was in medical school. And the reason why I started writing it was because I needed an outlet outside of medicine, because what we do in medical school, we get up in the morning, we go to school, we study, we read, we, go through different topics, whatever we need to do to get to the next test, to pass the next test, go home, and do it all over again. And I wanted something different. And I've always used writing as a way of reflection and just to make sure and check in on myself, just to make sure everything is okay. So I actually started writing this book in medical school. I started blogging in medical school, and with the Journal for Minority Medical Students, I also wrote a column in there as well. And that's how I got into writing. And eventually those things that I wrote about, I used that as a foundation to this book. And the reason why I did that was because a lot of people who I've come in contact with, whether I'm mentoring or people who have read my blogs, they always say that I'm very open and vulnerable. And I do that because I've been through a lot of things. What I noticed in medicine, and I'm sure this is in other other areas as well, is that people don't reflect and don't really tell people what they've been through and how they got to the point they're at. And so I've always been open. It has, for medical school especially, it was not an easy process. And I always tell people who come behind me or people who I'm mentoring that it's not an easy process. And I feel like in transition, whether you're in medicine, whether you're mid-career, whenever you're in transition, it's the same thing. It's not an easy process. So I felt like this would be a good way to put it out there and say, hey, I may not be with you personally, but I want to hold your hand and walk you through transition and let you know that at the end of it, you will succeed. You will meet your goals if you keep going. So that's how the book came apart. Mm-hmm.
So what is the title of your book?
So the title of my book is The Right Prescription, Finding the Right Spiritual Dosage for Any Obstacle.
Can you describe a little bit about what your book is about? Because it's very unique. You said that you wrote it, you started writing it when you were in medical school, but it's actually a very unique book because it's not just a book. It's actually a book that can help people on their own journey with journal writing and with discovering who they are, right?
Yeah, exactly. So the book itself, it talks about, it goes through my diary, but it couples it with the reader's diary. So, and it also has questions in the book itself that kind of push you to write. I found a lot of people don't know what to do when they journal. Sometimes it's, just writing down, which is good. But this is purposeful journaling so that in 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, you can look back to this book and see where you were in this time period and how you got to your goal. So what it is you have areas where you can journal, and then there are also scriptures that go along with whatever hardships you may go through or whatever that particular chapter is about. And then also a prayer is written. But it's not just the prayer that I wrote for the book. There's also a place that you can write your prayer as well. So it's really a reflective book, both now and then years to come. So you always can do that. And you can also give it, I thought about it as well because about my journey in writing my journal. And, a lot of times when you're writing a journal, you think about, okay, I'm writing this journal and I can actually give it to my kids. I can actually give it to my family members, maybe years down the line to let them know, what I experienced. And this is kind of the same thing, years down the line, whether you're, while you're still here on the planet or when you pass away, this will still remain and people will have a glimpse of what happened in your life.
So not only have you written a book, but you've left a legacy, and then you're helping other people develop their personal legacies too through their journal writing. When you decided on the scriptures and the prayers, how did you come about that? Do you have a background in religion or Christianity?
Sure. So the way that I came about it these are some of my favorite scriptures. And my dad is actually a minister. So just living with a minister in your house, you automatically get a different type of connection and a different type of knowledge base on the Bible, on Scripture. So throughout life, these have been some of the scriptures that I look to. Even my mom would, and she still does this when I may take a big test or anything. She writes down different scriptures and then puts them on either my mirror or somewhere that I see so that I can reflect on them and know that it's not just me going through this, but I have God to help me through any situation. So having all that and kind of growing up in that type of environment, that's where all of this came from.
Wow. And so not only is this book a reflection of who you are, but it's also part of your mother and father and family because of the information and the strength they provided to you as you were growing up. That's really a testament to your entire family that you used it to create this book that then is a gift to other people, to the world, basically.
Mm-hmm.
That's really phenomenal.
That's what we hope. Mm-hmm. Thank you.
So when did you decide to create this book?
I was actually trying to figure that out because in medicine, I think in this journey of becoming a doctor, things get really blurry. So I remember when I first thought about it, it was sometime during my first year of residency. Now, the reason why that's a blur is because, as you know, a lot of times in residency, you're working several hours. So all I remember is that I thought about it. I was working in the ICU, and I think I needed myself some type of source to keep me centered with all the things that I was seeing with patients dying, with family members going through different things. So this was my way to focus on, why am I here, and how can I help people while I'm here. So I think during that time, because I remember just going through things and jotting down notes and talking about this, that was the time that I came up with writing the book and being able to bless other people with the things that people have invested into me.
So how did you select you had lots of blog entries and you had your journal and your diary. How did you select what finally made it into the book?
I focused on the blogs that showed both the good moments, but then also the more vulnerable and the hard moments. And then some of these entries within the book didn't actually make it to the blog. And the reason why I didn't put them in the blog is because I actually thought they were too personal. So the book actually goes even deeper than my blog. So I wanted to do that because I felt that if I wanted the reader to be vulnerable and be able to write down things that may not feel good, may be uncomfortable, that it was important for me to do the same. So that's how I picked it. We're reflecting on the good times, but then also reflecting on the not so good times.
It's interesting that you bring that up because often I find that one of my personal procrastinations about writing, it's when you don't want to deal with things that are too painful, so you don't write them down because you know that if you do start to write it down, that things will probably end up bubbling out and happening. But at the same time, when you've created this book, so you give somebody like a transparent view into you, and then you give them opportunities to write about themselves and their experiences, and they have examples. So I think that would take away some of the fear that some of us have. It's kind of like, well, if Amber was letting me see that far into her personal feelings, then I should be able to let myself see who I am. Because
that's exactly right.
It is hard sometimes to write, and I think that's why your book is so important, is because you give people the scripture prompts, you give them the opportunity for their personal prayers, and then, of course, you tell them your story so you have an example there. So you have been mixing, obviously, becoming a medical doctor, a family practitioner, has to be probably one of the toughest types of doctors to become because you have to know a lot more than just a specialty, and you're also dealing with entire families and generations with that. Because I don't think that family physicians get enough credit because they have to be like the first line of defense, for all of the things. Are you planning on developing your writing skills? I know that you've also done some television reporting related to medicine, and you've also represented minority physicians. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Right. So, I'm constantly developing my skills, and specifically health communications and medical journalism. So recently I spent a month at ABC News in New York City working with a medical unit. And there, I learned about what it takes to bring things to the news and what producers are looking for in order to get them there as well. So that experience opened my eyes to so many different things, and it was so enjoyable. It was so much fun. We had a good time just, at that time we were talking about the Zika virus. So every day we had something about Zika, and being able to pull together different sources, interview different people, hear different perspectives from the patient side, from the doctor side, from the news side. It was an immersion of just a different world, basically, than what I would experience day to day as a family doctor. And so, yes, I hope that I continue with this, because I think, and I tell my colleagues all the time, and I try to encourage them to do the same, is that with media or with communications or with writing, it's a way to touch people who you may not normally reach. So as a doctor, I always say you see the people who are trying to prevent something from happening, and you see people who something, has already happened. So you may have a stroke or hypertension or something like that. What I want to do is meet the people who are in between, who can either become very sick or who can become very healthy. And a lot of times those aren't the people who come into the office. So by meeting people through writing, meeting people through the television, through blogging, whatever other outlet there is, that's a way to bring people in and teach them about health in a different way. And even with this book, what we always say in medicine is that writing things down is helpful, because it's a way of therapy. It's a therapy for you. So this is just another way to touch people who may not be able to come into the office and talk with me, or come into the office and talk to my other colleagues in medicine. It's a way to really sit down and be able to care for yourself and give time for yourself. So yes, I want to continue writing and developing my skills, and hopefully, I'll come out with, and I'm working on coming out even with another book to continue on.
Oh, cool. So you had mentioned previously that you might do some workshops related to your book. What might a workshop related to the right prescription look like?
Right. So the workshop would look like the workshop would include really working on our mindset. A lot of times the thing that is the barrier that we have is our mindset and exactly what we want to do or what we think we're not capable of doing. And if we can get to the mindset that anything is possible, and if we write down things, if we have our goals planning, if we really come up with a strategy that we can actually do it. So kind of pushing people into and motivating people and inspiring people into that mindset, that's what the workshop would be focused on.
Oh, that's cool. So you mentioned that you might write a second book. What are you thinking about for that book?
Yeah, it's kind of going through a similar pathway of talking about experiences, talking about scriptures, and including all of that together, and journaling. So I wanna go more into how to journal and why it's important to journal and how that can help you as therapy. Kind of going down that same pathway, going a little deeper than this book.
Oh, that's really interesting, because I think that many people, they've heard that journaling is good, mental therapy or therapy in general, but I don't know that many people really, think about how powerful it really is in your overall health and staying healthy. And so that's really phenomenal. So is there anything else that you'd like to tell me about your book that maybe I haven't touched on in asking you?
I think just in general, the book is a way for me to give a gift to the readers. And the reason why I say that is because, like I said before, a lot of people don't tell their stories and tell their journeys of how they got places. A lot of people reflect on when they're at that mountaintop experience and everything looks good and everything looks like roses, but it really isn't. So I just hope that the book is a way to show people that whatever goal you have, whatever you're going through, you're going to have tough times, you're going to have good times, you're going to have, you're going to have times where you don't really want to reflect on in the future. But at the end of it, if you keep going, and that's what I always tell people who try to figure out how in the world did you get where you are or at the age you are and doing things, just keep going. So that's really the gist of the book. Just keep going, and you'll eventually get exactly where you want to be if you work hard and you put God first.
Wow, that's really good advice. And I really don't think that you are that old. You.
Okay. Thank you.
I'm thinking about, well, you probably are still in your 20s.
I am. I'm still in my 20s.
Yeah.
So a lot of people.
Very wise. Very wise. No, I'm just kind of laughing because I know how long becoming a medical doctor is a long journey. But
oh my goodness. Yeah.
If you start right out of high school when you're 18 years old, you could keep going. And you have, what, 1 more year of residency?
7 more months. I'm counting down. Yeah.
So after residency, does that mean that you could open your own practice? Is that kind of how it works? Yeah,
so I can either open my own practice or I can work for a hospital system. So I'm debating on both of them because I have a business mindset, but I also am interested in teaching, so teaching medical students and residents, and being there, being the person in place to help more minorities come and get into medicine. That's very important to me, and that's one of my life goals, getting more minorities in medicine to better reflect what our U.S. population looks like. So I'm trying to debate and trying to figure out which direction, or I might take both directions. We'll see.
Oh, well, that's really that's good. So I think that's a perfect question. So if you were to mentor someone who wanted to get into the medical profession, and that could either be through medical communications or become a doctor or a dentist or get into the medical field, what would your advice be about like the steps that you might take? Let's say that you're somebody who is either, maybe you're still in high school, or maybe you're what I call a little bit late bloomer, meaning that maybe you're just figuring it out now, and maybe, you're in your 20s or even 30s. What might you look at to take some steps forward to getting into the medical profession or into medical journalism or communications?
Okay, so I'll take the first half, and then I'll
okay.
In 2 parts. So if it's a high schooler or late, someone who's coming into it later in life, I would say first really understand what it is you're going into. And I give that advice to everybody. And the reason why I say that is because the journey is so long and you have different moments where you have up and down moments. You have to know what you're getting into. So I would say you should definitely shadow a doctor, shadow a nurse practitioner, whatever field you want to go into in medicine. Shadow a person in that, and figure out if it fits you. And if it does, then I would say reach out and get either that person or someone else as a mentor. I literally Googled people when I was looking for mentors, and a lot of my friends are like, why do you do that? How can you approach people you don't know? People are willing to mentor you if you ask them and come to them in a humble manner and say, hey, I really want somebody to mentor me. And I've gotten most of my mentors like that, whether Googling them or seeing them in person or just seeing the great work that they're doing. So I would say definitely get a mentor to walk you through, because everybody's journey is a little different. So kind of hearing what other people's pitfalls were, or what mistakes they made, or what they would suggest you to do is important. For high schoolers, going to the right college is important. For me, Xavier was a perfect fit. because it is the number one school in getting African Americans into medical school, or either number one, number two. Sometimes we go back and forth with the years, but it's a really good school. So knowing what school you're going to is important to have the people in place to help you with applying and for medical school or veterinarian school or dental school, and then what to do with taking tests and having a supportive environment. For later in life, I would say it's kind of the same thing, finding someone that you identify with. Now, in regards to medical journalism, I would say find somebody who's doing what you really think that you want to do. So, again, looking for a mentor and then just doing it. A lot of times doctors can just approach the local news, or they can approach the local newspaper and say, hi, I'm interested in writing, or I'm interested in doing a medical segment. And people are very open to that and very excited to have someone who's willing to do that, because not that many people like doing, putting themselves out there to do that. So just kind of taking that first step and just approaching people. I think overall, approaching people and telling them what you want and what your vision is and what your goals are, that's the way that you're able to really figure out how to get where you need to go. Networking, basically.
That is phenomenal advice. I think that you're right on, and you really did say it. People are very, very willing to help other people when you approach them and you know what it is that you're looking for. You really are absolutely right. I found that too. When you're sincere and, like you said, humble, and you really go in, gratitude that the fact that they'll even talk to you sometimes is amazing in itself. And because they'll help you, or they might know someone who might be able to help you to get into a certain place or put you in front of someone to help you get there. But I think you really said it. You have to work really hard, put your faith in God, and keep moving forward, and just believe that everything's going to work out. And I think in my life it always has. And it sounds like you're on just a phenomenal adventure, and you have lots of opportunities because you have taken the love of medicine and your love of communication and melded them together. And I did read your book, and it is, really, you do bare your soul, and then at the same time you give people the hope that they need to keep moving forward, because they do have, you did write, some great prayers and give them some really solid scriptures to keep moving forward. So, Dr. Robbins, can you tell me where people can find your books and find out more about you?
Yes, so you can check out my website. It's www.dramberrobbins.com, and it's AMBERROBINS.com. And so there you can see, you can get the link for where my book is. It's on Amazon. So you can also type in my name on Amazon, and it'll come right up. And then you can also, if you want an autographed copy, you can go through my website, so I can get that to you too.
Okay, great. So I just wanted to thank you again, and remember, go check out Dr. Amber Robbins, and her book is The Right Prescription, available on Amazon, or go to her website, which is dramberrobbins.com, and you can find out more. And I'd go for the autographed copy because I always like that. And then she also has a blog and a lot more information. And then you also have some video posts at dramberrobbins.com.
Yes.
And what are in some of the videos? Are they are stories that you've done?
Right. So here in Rochester, I do medical segments for the local news, from topics on flu vaccine, to breast cancer, to sinus issues. So those are also on the website, so you can check those out too. I found them to be helpful. A lot of patients come in and say that they're helpful, so I hope that they're helpful to your listeners as well.
Oh, I think so. Great. So again, Dr. Amber Robbins, thank you so much. I really appreciate all the time you took today.
Thank you. This is great. Thanks.
This is Tammy.
Thanks for listening to Business Innovators Radio. To hear all episodes featuring leading industry influencers and trendsetters, visit us online at businessinnovatorsradio.com today.